members saying, hey, the cemetery is not being kept up. You have to do additional mowings. And then, we have to do the additional mowings, that way. And as you can see on that second page of the staff report from Doug, you can see the prices broke down, spring cleanup 2022, lawn maintenance 2022, spring cleanup fall cleanup 2022, and then it just repeats itself for 23 and 24, and then the spring cleanup for 25.
I'm fine with it. I just was
Yeah.
making sure we're not paying in advance, we're just paying as we go.
Yeah, we pay as we go.
So we don't have an issue with it.
Yeah,
Somebody
and
paying.
Brian Cronk is in the audience this evening, if you're wondering who that gentleman is there in the hat.
So Joel, the lawn maintenance, we pay $2,400 each time,
Yep,
regardless of how many times it's done?
2,400 each time. We have a quantity.
mean-
We planned for 13. And
So what if it's 15 or
if
we'd
it's
still?
15, we'll have to adjust the budget.
Okay,
And I will,
And-
it's a rough one, maintaining that cemetery with all the trees. And it's a very important, piece of land to the residents and the community. So, we will do the maintenance, we call in when we need it, when it needs to be mowed. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Trust me, this is one that, in my going on 6 years now here, 5 years, my fifth year here, that this is one cemetery that everyone is passionate about.
Dave or Bill, did you have any questions for staff? Or for Mr. Cronk, since he's in the audience, I'm sure he can answer questions too.
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay, if there's no further questions, could we get a motion, please?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Mike. Could we get a support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Cronk. Next, we have 11E.2, which is a request to adopt Resolution 21.34, authorizing changes to the standard lighting contract with Consumers Energy Company. Joel?
Sure. So with all of our streetlights, we have a contract with them. And whenever we request that a new light goes up, they submit us what I'm going to call an invoice or notification saying this is the cost that it's going to be for us to put this light up. And then the local governing body, which is the city council, has to pass a resolution agreeing to pay that cost. We would like to put a new light up at the entrance of the Cutler Street parking lot. This will better light up the entrance off Water Street. And, where people, walk a lot from the parking lot across the street to Schaendorf. It's a $100, fee for them to put a light up for us. So we're requesting, that council amend the contract to consumers to have that street light go up.
Thank you, Joel. Any questions? Roger?
Has there been any talk? I don't think we've got one here at this alleyway entrance. Is there a chance we could get those done at the same time?
So we are looking at a pedestrian light and the bump out on the side of Country House. That is going to require us to agree on our lighting standards for the downtown streetscape.
What our new lights look like?
Correct. I would say there's a recommendation from the DDA, and we're hoping to present that to City Council during your strategic planning sessions, as well as the total financing for the downtown streetscape. We are rounding third base, putting the final numbers together, but we're not quite at a point to say this is the direction we want to go. And we just don't want to get the cart in front of the horse on choosing that, street light right now.
I thought when we had talked about doing one that was just mounted on the side of the building, we were going to talk to the business owner.
So we did talk to Joel from Country House Furniture about the idea of putting a light above their service door on the side of the building. He seemed amenable to that. I think we're still trying to figure out the cost. How do we, if it's under a certain amount of money, then I can just hire an electrician and get the job done. But if it's above a certain amount, and we're trying to still figure out if that cost is below that threshold or not. It's somewhat of a low threshold for when we have to go out for bid for projects.
Okay, I know we just had that conversation, so I wanted to bring
Yeah.
it back up, so that's fine.
I would say that is not lost on us.
Okay.
we may not be moving as fast as we should on that, but it's not lost.
All right, good.
Any other questions, council?
Nope.
No? Okay. Seeing none, could I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Mike. And could I get a support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Under 11F, City Manager and City Clerk, we have 11F.1, which is a request to adopt Resolution 21.33, which is an amendment to the social district boundaries. Staff?
Sure. Council, you recall when the social district boundaries were first created, we stretched the net far and wide. At that time, we included the Griswold Auditorium in that boundary. Unfortunately, what happens when the social district boundaries is no special permits then can be pulled to serve alcohol by nonprofits within those boundaries unless you shut down the entire social district. We were hoping that we would be able to get a special liquor license, or not a special liquor license, but a year-round liquor license for the Griswold under the state of Michigan's municipal civic auditorium liquor license process. However, to qualify for that, you have to have a population of 5,500 people. We have a population of 5,010 based on the most recent census, so we're 490 souls shy of their limit. We've reached out to the Liquor Control Commission, asked them if there's an appeal process or a variance or any way for us to skirt around that requirement. They quickly said no, and the conversation was done. We do not have enough time to work with our elected legislators in Lansing to change the law. So we need to remove the Griswold if Cabaret is going to happen. And I focus on Cabaret because in my time here, Cabaret's been the most successful event I've ever seen at the Griswold. Dean Michaels and company and Wings of Hope, that they do a great job building that auditorium. The Arts Council is the organization that pulls the liquor license, and they do a great job providing that aspect of that two-weekend event. So we do not want to slow them down. And so it's our recommendation that we pass a resolution this evening amending our social district boundaries, pulling out the Griswold property. It still will reach down around Hanson Park and include the entirety of our riverfront, which I believe was a goal when the council first created this boundary. And this also would allow Positively Allegan, which is a nonprofit arm of the city of Allegan, to apply for 12 special license at the Griswold so we can start planning concerts for this upcoming spring and activating more use at the Griswold. We're just really hoping to get a special liquor license there so we would never have to worry about these 12 individual ones, and then the city can recoup all the costs, just like we did in years past with our events on the riverfront. Any questions?
Only one, I knew about this for a while, but the library, do they want to be in it? Would they ever, the board over there, ever have any events that they would prefer to possibly have wine served at in their big conference room that's there now or something, where they do some event that they might want to pull a special permit themselves?
So my conversation with the library, Parker and I met with them last year sometime. It's kind of a blur. Their concern was when the social district boundaries were created, that people could just walk in willy-nilly into their building with alcohol. And Parker and I met with the director over there, and she shared her concerns of her board, saying people could just show up here then. And we said, no, that's not the way it works. You can't just bring alcohol into someone's private property or public property. And so they were okay with that. At no time were we ever told that they want to be out of the district, because they wanted to serve alcohol in their own spot.
Yeah, I know they have that new area that maybe where they
Yeah.
might in the future want to do something similar to have like a wine and.
I will say, I was shocked when we first started talking about amending it, how common, the Liquor Control Commission told us you can just amend your boundaries anytime you want. And some cities have amended their boundaries multiple times to carve out special areas for, pick your fundraiser someone wanted to do, but not hurt the whole district. I really don't want to go down that way. I would rather us just establish what we have and then, only attack this when we really need to attack it, like right now. Because I don't want to negate or hurt Cabaret. We've already we didn't hurt, but the Allegan Education Foundation wasn't able to use the Griswold this year because of our boundaries.
Thanks for the question, Peter. Are there any other questions, council? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to adopt Resolution 21.33, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have 11F.2, which is a request to amend the purchase and development agreement with 102 Brady LLC. Staff?
All right. Before council tonight is a recommendation from city staff that we amend our purchase and development agreement for the development of 101 Brady Street and enter into an agreement with 102 Brady LLC for the development of 101 Brady Street. The image on the screen right now is 102 Brady Street. I believe all of council knows 101 Brady Street is across the street on the riverfront. Going back to 2018, the council at that time, working with city staff and a group of residents, created a steering committee to look at what can 101 Brady be. The MEDC funded a charrette. The MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, has a role to jumpstart investment and development in small towns throughout Michigan. So through the charrette, we put together an RFQ. Working with the MEDC, we noticed that RFQ statewide and nationwide with development partners they have, throughout the country. We had one entity submit a proposal. That entity was CL Real Estate. CL Real Estate is a firm out of Illinois. They've had a little bit of success with developments in Illinois, not so much with developments in Michigan. However, at that time, City Council agreed to move forward with CL Real Estate and say, let's get this project going. They did a good presentation. We had some faith in their vision, and we had some clawback provisions in the agreement and on the deed, where if it doesn't come to fruition, the city can, step in. Earlier this summer, fall, it became evident, it was mentioned in my staff report, that they were not able to secure financing. The banks they're used to working with in Illinois were like, we're not lending in Michigan. We don't know anything about West Michigan when it comes to development. And the banks in West Michigan were like, we're not lending to a firm from Illinois. We know nothing about this firm from Illinois. So it's kind of a catch-22 on how we keep this project moving. Lakewood Construction was the general contractor for CL Real Estate, helping them put this project together. And Suburban Ends was a potential hotel operator helping put this project together. Once it became apparent that CL Real Estate wasn't going to be able to pull this project off, as mentioned in my staff report or in the email I sent earlier today to council, we started looking at other options to keep this project afloat, specifically, executing council's goal of promoting commercial and industrial investment in the city. This very much is commercial investment. Through the existing purchase and development agreement, we have the ability for it to be assigned to a new entity. This entity is 102 LLC. Nick Nykirk is in the audience this evening. He represents 102 Brady LLC. He also represents Lakewood Construction by the name on his jacket. Working with him, we started having conversations on how we can pull this off. How can we still make this work? Thankfully, 102 Brady LLC stepped up and worked with Safe Harbor to help secure the 102 Brady property you see on the screen behind you. Safe Harbor, a local nonprofit that provides services to abused and neglected children, as council's aware, is looking to build a new home. They're currently on Trowbridge. They were going to go here, then they realized this was probably a little more than what they needed, and they were able to work with the city to secure property on Sherman Street by the bowling alley. But that whole dream and vision was, dependent on the sale of this property. 102 Brady LLC stepped in, purchased this property to make their vision, possible and move forward. And as a community member, I'm thankful for that. We then got to the point where 102 Brady had to work with CL Real Estate to purchase 101 Brady. They are ready to purchase 101 Brady with 2 changes to the existing purchase and development agreement. The first thing is we need to change the completion date. The original purchase and development agreement had a completion date of December 31st or June 30th, 2024. I had a typo in my report. I said December 31st, 2024. So we are looking for an extension of that completion date of 6 months. The other change to the purchase development agreement is to replace the performance bond, the $100,000 performance bond, with a $25,000 liquidated damages clause in the agreement. So those are the 2 main changes that we're making to this purchase and development agreement to keep this project on a track or a path forward. Nick is in the audience this evening. He can answer questions. For members of council who were, so not Mike and Bill, but you may recall Nick was on one of our Zoom meetings at the very beginning. This would have been a year and a half ago when we were still talking about this project and council was approving the design for the building with CL Real Estate. Nick's also been on Zoom meetings with the Planning Commission when they received site plan approval and Zoom meetings with the Historic District Commission when they received their Historic District Commission approvals. Any questions for me as how we got here before I have Nick come up to the podium?
I'm not sure who it would go to, but what is the reason for the performance bond being?
We can have Nick come to Nick and I can tag team on that one when we get there, but yeah. Any other questions besides that one? That's just of staff on why I got it, my thinking.
Just under the second point, maybe people are going to give me the same answer, but it says that 102 Brady LLC has until December 31st to vet out the approved plans. So what does that entail? Does that include shovels and dirt, or is that just putting stamps on plans?
We'll have Nick also. That'd be a great comment. Maybe we should have Nick come to the
And Nick, why don't you
podium.
come on up to the podium, please? Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Nick Nykirk, representing 102 Brady LLC, and then I am president of Lakewood Construction. So Joel hit on a lot of the big points kind of leading up to this moment. It's been a long time coming, and I've been involved in the project since its conception when CL secured or actually entered into due diligence phase to put a plan together to develop 101 Brady. Through that process, we worked with them to develop a concept and a costing model that we then put in front of council for approval last year. So that's what you saw. Lakewood, it was a firm behind a lot of that work and effort to get to that point. So I know the project very well of what took it along to that point. And then during that time, too, we connected with Safe Harbor and did a cost analysis on their building. So as we were working with both of these groups, and as we came to the result for 102 Brady, or for Safe Harbor, that 102 was maybe a little bit more than what they needed. And just with the effort to repurpose that building from what it had been used for what they're going to use it for, there was a better option to support their long-term vision and services, and that was that lot on Sherman. So through that, it seemed like a great position to make a connection between those two and have 102, or have Safe Harbor sell to CL that would then support, maybe a better concept of what you could do with 101, with having a parking lot and another facility across the street. Working with Suburban Ends, they really liked that idea of the initial concept of doing a hotel on 101, but then also having an event or a different auxiliary space across the street that would work really well from an operation standpoint. So we thought we really had a good blend of these two causes, right? through 2020 and into 2021, with COVID, with cost escalation and supply chain, I'm sure you guys have all experienced that in some form or fashion. It became apparent that CL wasn't able to get the lending. We had some cost issues and challenges with project costs and procurement, and therefore they kind of paused on the project. As we got that news, as I got that news, it was disappointing to hear what that meant for Safe Harbor. And, sitting back, talking with a few folks at Lakewood, we're like, there's got to be something here we can do. It seems like this project does have some life with the right people in charge, and so I'm hoping that through some form or fashion, we can develop that plan. So we made the commitment to I did, to purchase 102 Brady. It was going to be in tandem with Pete Buchema, who was of Suburban Ends, and we were going to try to get this going, but you may hear that he's no longer at Suburban Ends. He's still in the hotel operation space, but he just had a career path change a little bit with what organization he was working for, and he's kind of out on his own from Suburban Ends. But through a little bit of his counsel, he's really, really positive about the project and the opportunity here, but just timing-wise, he wasn't able to be part of the 102 Brady LLC. So that's why it's just me here today. So that's a little bit of the history of how we're here. Working through this purchase agreement, with Joel, there was the bond requirement in place. And my understanding, and Joel, you can correct me if I'm misunderstood, but there was some work that was going to be done, potentially with the street improvement and potentially with a sewer line and some things. And the city wanted to protect it. If something was half done, if the developer at that time didn't complete it, there was an avenue to make it right. So it was protecting, a half-completed project. So, my proposal today is that by the December 31 date of 2022, we would have all the plans and approvals to go ahead with the project in the hopes that we would complete it sometime. We would like to complete it earlier in '24, but just with the timing and everything, I wanted to buy just a little bit of room on the back end if those things took a little bit longer. The scope was a little bit bigger than before, so we could make sure we completed before that 2024 deadline. But we absolutely don't have any plans, or should this be approved, there's no plan to disturb what is there without an approval from the full plan of what we'd move ahead. So therefore, through talking with Joel, we felt the liquidated damages would be a way from a time sensitivity standpoint to have some compensation or motivation for me to hit the deadline, right? But yeah, there won't be any plans for shovel in the ground or anything before, something's half-baked. It's gonna be fully vetted out. Your approval is a condition precedent for moving ahead, so you'll be seeing more of me if this is approved, so, yeah.
Mike, did that answer your question about the bond?
It does, but I've had a lot of great plans and things change in the future that we don't even think about and know about. Would that be an issue for you moving forward if we kept that in there? Is it a cost problem? Is it something you can't?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hurdle. It creates a hurdle.
What is the cost for such a thing?
I didn't go ahead and do it and look at the cost, but we've got a bonding program through Lakewood with 102 Brady LLC. I'm not sure what the I would get the same bonding agent, I would imagine. We could work something out, but it just seemed like a formality that wouldn't necessarily add value for what it was trying to protect for the city. Being that I'm not gonna start something and not finish it. It's gonna get fully vetted out and approved before we move ahead, so I don't wanna take a half step, if you will.
Thank you, Nick. Roger, did you get your question answered, or would you like any further clarification? That's also a question I had, and I think Peter was a little concerned about that as well.
Yeah, so I think, I think you covered what my initial question was about what vetted out means. So basically, within the next year, because it's almost exactly a year, we're looking at, or that's your deadline to get things set for what you want to get done, but nothing's going to happen next year.
It'd be unlikely.
Yeah,
Yep,
I mean,
it'd
I
be
know
pretty
that'd
quick
be
with
kinda
it.
rushing it,
Yeah, yep. So, you know, I've got the quarterly updates that I would provide. So this would be the first one for January where the project stands. I have 4 contacts at either develop or operate hotels that I plan to reach out to in the next 2 weeks to start talking with them to see what they think would be possible here and just get some feedback. So by April 1, I'd have a report on how those meetings are going. And then by July, we would put some of those, I would come back or maybe meet with you guys and say, here's what I'm hearing, here's what we can do. Here's some things the city would like and the council would like to be seen with this property. Work on how we put those two together. And then from April to July, we would work on maybe getting a concept, real high level, maybe not quite to the full detail you saw in the last round, but something to the fact that we could put a costing model to it and talk to some lenders and stuff to make sure there's support from a financing standpoint for the project and that it's possible cost-wise to do it. And then by October, I'd hope to have a really good concept schematic design that then could be presented to the council for approval to put us on a good timeline and allow, you know, that last quarter for any updates, amendments, or things that you guys would like to see there. So I think that's kind of just a high-level timeline of how we can be successful.
So have you already decided you don't want to use the existing plans? You wanna
Parts and pieces are good. The only thing was as the project through 2021 there, when things kind of stalled out, is just the cost just ran out of control. Construction scene in general, that project went up 30%. Added to the fact that hospitality lending kind of tightened up a little bit. It was just a bad combination of things. You know, what we did, one of the analysis we did for Lakewood was we looked at 3 different structure types on how to construct it: wood, steel, and concrete, or some block and a different combination of wood. So now that lumber prices are coming back, that's more feasible. But we're going to do a hard look at those different things and how do we put this together. So I don't know today exactly what components will be in or out, but we know fit within the area and as a neighbor and what it looks like is going to be important, aesthetics, but then also making sure that it serves the long-term needs, so.
Great, thanks.
From you? No? Okay. Peter?
A few concerns. I was of the mindset to just sell the property and not deal with all this, because this is exactly what I foresaw coming, and just sell it outright and not have to deal with this. Couple concerns was we had the whole performance bond / letter of credit was mostly due to if construction started and it wasn't completed. Could we put that in for once construction actually starts, being that this first year isn't going to actually have anything in it, and the $25,000, if something goes really wrong, there's no assets to be sought after. There's nothing there to get $25,000 from, to be honest, because it's 102 Brady is a new LLC just formed last month and probably has no meaningful assets. That's why that $25,000 means about nothing to me as far as it, because it's not a bond, it's not a letter of credit. It's, maybe you could get something, maybe you couldn't. I don't think a hotel necessarily is going to be fruitful. I really didn't think it was at the beginning, back when I was on planning. Felt a combination type building where it was condos or apartments or in a hotel, mixed use, was probably going to be more sustainable. As I've seen in the hospitality industry as I travel a bit, the hotels are fairly empty. There's not a lot going on in a lot of places. It just recently kind of got real busy over Christmas here. Let me see what other things I had for questions. Had it up on my thing. I see, the other thing is that it's really, we're changing fully paragraph 12 of the agreement. We're subbing in a completely new paragraph 12. It's not just 2 things, it's the whole paragraph's getting replaced. Changing of the completion date, but once again, I would just kind of move to just sell it. I kind of don't like the changing of it like this, because we put it out for proposals, we vetted the proposals, we went through lots of meetings and lots of talk about this. And then, of course, now all changes, and that's kind of why I was for just selling it. But now we're stuck back here again. but we didn't put it back out to proposal. We're changing kind of midstream. We're changing the agreement. We're not putting it back out there for anybody else that could be interested in it. We're just changing and hoping that it gets completed. So I'm kind of not happy with how it kind of progressed here, and not sure about going into an agreement with a newly formed LLC is necessarily the greatest. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I would prefer if there was some sort of bonding or performance after construction started. You know, I can understand until you get to construction, there's not really a need for it because there's nothing being changed on the property. So if it was a clawback, we wouldn't need to call on it anyways. And I understand the cost of a letter of credit. Banks don't give them out like they used to. You used to be able to go to a bank that you had good relationships with and not have to fully fund it. Now you're pretty much stuck fully funding it. Being that this LLC is a new LLC and has no bond rating, I don't know where they would go about getting their bonding from, probably through Lakewood. I just don't want to see something like, unfortunately, the worst, construction company bankruptcy that we've had in the area, which was Lamar. They went out of business. They didn't have a whole lot of assets because they structured it in ways that, of course, you have these sub-LLCs. You don't have that much assets there. They were quite under the hole. So a little concerning on it. I prefer just kind of arm length it. I don't like being like right involved like this.
Thanks, Peter. Teresa, did you have any questions for Nick or Joel?
Not really a question, just a statement along the same line. We were pretty adamant of putting the $100,000 performance bond in there, and now we're backing down to $25,000, which really isn't going to fix anything, once they get started. So, and then it sounds to me, Nick, that you don't have the financing either. You'd have to still go out for financing.
I would be putting significant personal capital into the project, so more so than that line of credit. Just in the due diligence phase, it'd probably approach close to six figures to get this thing off the ground. So I don't want to spend that money and have it go bust. So, you have I want to see this thing go. I'm willing to invest in that process to come up with a viable project. The $100,000, I don't take offense to it because I know, but Lamar and Lakewood are nowhere near the same type of company if you look at our reputation and what we've done compared to how they did business. So I think you're dealing with a lot better reputation of a company than that. And then to the fact of when it gets to that point, we can have a bond on the project, but $100,000 ain't going to solve anything, to be honest with you, if something goes wrong in construction. So we have a lot more risk than that in what we do every day. And that's what we do at Lakewood is we manage that to the best of our ability, all that risk forward, so that when we commit to our clients and the projects, everything sees to completion. You can look at the 50 years we've been in business, there hasn't been any issue. So I can see where.
It wasn't a
I know,
look,
but it's
it was
just, but that's the reality of construction development. People have a bad connotation, and then you get good companies and good people that want to help build a community, and we have to face some hurdles like this, understandable, but I'd be happy to talk more about that offline, so.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, where are you out of?
Born in Zealand,
Okay.
live in Zealand.
Dave, did you have any questions for Nick or Joel?
No, I think I see everything here okay, and it makes sense to me, so I'm good.
Thank you. How about you, Bill?
I don't have anything. You guys have covered everything that I had any questions on.
Okay. And I mentioned it with Roger's question, that extension to the December 31st of next year as far as vetting everything out. Since you have been involved since pretty much the beginning, I know Lakewood was here even when CL was doing their initial presentations. You still feel like it's necessary to have that full year, even though you've kind of, I appreciate that you explained
Yeah.
what you would do
Yeah.
per quarter.
Yep. Well, that's a little bit why, and when we get to the design phase, and that is, it's gonna take 6 months from when the concept's approved to get all the way through for the bidding and budgets and full design and all that. It will take a substantial lift for a project of what the scope is, hoped to be, to get that all vetted out and I's dotted, T's crossed, so.
Okay, and Suburban Inns is no longer probably involved, or is that?
Not Suburban Ends. Pete Buchma is now at 6 PM Ventures, so new company, but good track record, good history. He's excited about the project, but to what level of his involvement is TBD, but there's a few others that
Okay.
are also.
But you have
in the
other
mix. Yep.
development?
For sure.
Okay. All right, that was the only questions that I had then. Is there any other questions, council, generally? Mike?
When you were saying that 100,000 really isn't gonna cure anything, is that a suggestion that maybe more should be required?
You can get a performance bond on the construction. It's gonna run you 1% of project costs generally. So that's just part of the pro forma, as costs add up. If you have a reputable and good contractor, and you work with good trades contractors that we intend to in the community, their word and their follow-through and their resume are that guarantee. And so we vet out all our trade contractors and financials and make sure we're working with good companies. And this area has a lot of really good trade contractors that would like to partner with us. We had some good momentum when we went through the costing process of people that were excited about the project. So I think the support will be there from the trades to get this done. And I think Lakewood's the right company to lead that, so.
Are you banking that prices will start to settle down in a year?
I'm not, no. No, I'm just trying to come up with the economics or the economy of scale or the efficiencies that we can look through in construction, whether it's different materials, different configuration. The one with a pool and a ton of brick, maybe there's not a pool on site, right? You can do some things that maybe it's a little bit overbuilt from a property standpoint that can save a lot of cost, but those are the things with a hotel operator that I meet with. We'll talk about how important it is them to run a hotel as a pool. Some of them might say, we don't want a pool. It's maintenance, it's this, it's not used that much. Yeah, get the pool out of there. But each operator has a different niche, and so my goal is to meet with folks in those different lanes of hotel and brands and see what best practices of each of those may best serve this parcel.
And I'll just say, I know that when we put this together originally for CL, I think there was a lot of concern from the get-go, just based on some of their reputation, to be honest, and that's why we had a lot of these clawbacks built in.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was specific to CL Real Estate. So I'm just going to lay that out there for that. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, so the next step would be a motion to approve the purchase and development agreement with 102 Brady LLC.
So moved.
Could I get a support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have agenda item 11F.3, which is a request to approve the calendar year 2022 public meeting schedule. Staff?
As with every year, the last meeting before the new calendar year, city council has to establish what I call your regular meetings for city council, as well as all of the advisory committees to stay in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So in your report, you saw the dates listed. These are just for the regular meetings. We do have special meetings that are scheduled where we have to give a minimum of 18 hours notice.
Thank you. Council, did you have any questions about the meeting schedule?
Is the September 12th the one for the fair, or which one's going to be canceled for the fair again?
Yeah, so we always keep that first one in September and there just in case there's not a fair. But yeah, we'll probably have you cancel that one as we get close to September.
All right, just checking.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council? Nope.
I see
Dave?
there's a dinner with council and department heads. Did we end up,
So that's the next item on the budget meeting schedule.
oh, okay,
Two separate,
sorry.
and for some reason, I pulled that one out from the regular meetings because it's kind of special meetings.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no further questions, could we get a motion to approve calendar 2022 public meeting schedule,
Motion
please?
to approve?
Thanks, Mike. It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, under 11F.4, we have a request to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget meeting schedule.
Correct. So planning for our budget preparation, we'd like to start with January 13th, cookies with council here in this room. January 14th is dinner with council and department heads here at City Hall. And then January 15th is that Saturday, your strategic planning. So that Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the beginning of our fiscal year 23 budget schedule. I apologize, it says fiscal year 22 in your report. And then we move into just generic meetings among staff. Then we come back to council on April 13th and April 27th for budget sessions with the individual departments and their final requests.
Dave, did you still have a question?
Yeah, so we've got the department heads. Did we decide not to do the meetings with the committees, the committee chairs?
That's a very good point. We did not decide not to do that. We just forgot to include that, is where I'm going with that one, Dave.
Okay.
That was a new step that council wanted to start this year.
Would it be January 15, during our strategic planning, we kind of talked about having them come in, or?
We could have them come in the morning,
No.
if that's enough time. So I think right now is a good time to hit pause and have a discussion on this and not make it quick.
Yeah, probably.
Make a decision tonight, but let's talk this out some more and not just jump right. So, airport,
Airport, public spaces, DDA, wellhead protection.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have trouble sometimes with the value of the department heads dinner where we're getting presentations from multiple complex departments, and do we have time to get into every department and ask a lot of questions in that dinner with each presentation? Like, are we taking a critical look at them, or are we just getting some summary from each department? To me, that feels like a very long night. Like, it feels like it's not so much a back and forth as just, here's a bunch of information, good luck.
Yeah, just to answer your question, from my perspective, I see as an overview of what they're hoping to have included in the budget. And so then, as our budget planning process continues, we have that knowledge of what they're looking to do, and then we decide whether or not that's something we want to move forward with. I mean, that's how I see it. I don't know if anyone else wants to touch on that, if you find it beneficial, too long, et cetera.
No, I think it's okay, because it does give that
I think it's a
overview.
lot of knowledge,
I
yeah.
do think having the subcommittees, heads of them invited in on our strategic planning, maybe in the morning there, just to kind of, they're supposed to do kind of their own strategic planning and then kind of present what they want to kind of do, like public spaces, et cetera, where they want to go in the next year, so that when it comes time for our budgets, they, of course, feel included, that, hey, we listened to what you want, this is what we can kind of do, what we can't do.
And just to give you a heads up, I've spoke to Joel also about trying to incorporate our MML training during strategic planning, but that's going to become a very, very long day then. So we would need to either have a special meeting for that separately.
I think we should do the MLL training separate from our strategic planning. I think it's two different things.
I think so as well. It feels like something that doesn't necessarily go along with the strategic planning. It's maybe in February or between January and April, when we have our next meeting, we could have a special meeting to do that.
so in this process, when you look at the schedule in the report, January 13th, 14th, and 15th, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday is kind of the kickoff. And then it's staff intensive. You know, January 17th is when we send out the worksheets to the department heads. You know, February 4th, 3 weeks later, they gotta give us their information back. Then in February, we have one-on-one meetings in my office or Tracy's office with department heads. Would it be advantageous to set up a separate special meeting at the end of January with the individual subcommittees. But my concern throwing a bunch of things onto one day is things might get lost or value may not be added. And I struggle with if all the advisory committee, I mean, the airport, they have a 5-year CIP plan. And it's not anything really big. Where public spaces, they've gone through their
Did
list.
our thing, and I
Yeah.
think Parker and/or staff was gonna take care of that and just kind of present it to us as strategic planning.
Yeah, and we shared it during the update from the committee, during a council meeting. DDA, they're going through their stuff this, January meeting.
I mean, the committees are always, anybody's welcome to come to these, they're always welcome to come, but for them to get up and give a presentation, or, I don't know that we need all that.
So I think part of what we were looking for from the committees was to see how we could incorporate their vision or their goals into our own, or that we could kind of tell them, okay, this kind of falls under what we're thinking of, this is what we'd like you to take on. So I guess it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation here. Do we come up with our goals first and then try to incorporate theirs into ours? Or do we want to hear what they want to do and then try to use theirs to move forward? Any thoughts?
I did want to hear from some of these committees, and also so that they feel like definitely more included, and not so distanced from council as part of it. And whether they want to come and present, or if they say, well, we have nobody to come present, whoever presents whatever they've come up with in their meeting, that's fine. It's just, if you want to come. If you don't. But it'd be nice just to at least go over those.
You're thinking at strategic planning, Peter?
I'm thinking either at strategic planning or before budgets get really kicked off. Because then it's the 17th when they go out with the worksheets, they come back on February 4th, so it would have to be sometime between that 15th and the February 4th. Because if we have any goals that we need to change or anything that we're looking to shift, it should be before the department heads all come back with their budgets to say, hey, we'd like you to look at this or that in the parks, or this
Right.
or that here or there.
Dave, do you have any thoughts about timing?
I think I'm a little bit, I'm thinking a lot about what the strategy meetings goals are. And I think a lot about what the strategic goals are versus operational goals. And I think strategic goals set a vision and a direction that then drive down operational goals. And so for me, when I think about this strategic planning session, it feels like city council needs a lot of time to sort of come to an agreement around what our strategy is as a city, what the overall vision is. And then those operational goals would follow that through staff work, meeting with department heads. And those department heads would then be under our strategy, or they would be aligned to our strategy. I think developing a strategy for the city and developing those strategic goals, I think it's wise to get a lot of input from the community and from committees in general. I think right now we're in a position where the relationship between council and those committees might not be developed enough to have effective communication on such short notice. So if we go to committee members, let's say we email them tonight, we go to all these chairs, we say, oh, by the 15th or so, you're gonna need to be ready to come and present to council. I don't know that they're gonna know how to present to council well. I don't think they're gonna be given enough time to prepare for that. And so I don't know that we're setting them up for success, and I don't know that we're gonna find a whole lot of value in that relationship if we try to rush it. But I do think there's an important conversation for council to have in our relationship with committees, and it might be wise for us to talk about that in our strategic planning to try to start building that culture around strategic planning so that maybe this year we're starting to set the stage for better strategic planning in the future. That's my thinking on it.
And I guess maybe that's where there was a misunderstanding because we already went to public spaces and said, hey, we're going to incorporate your ideas into our council strategic planning. So we spent one whole meeting drawing on the board and getting their ideas of what they're looking at, and what they want to work towards, so that we are ready to present that to council as strategic planning.
Okay.
So I thought we had all been instructed to do that to our committees that we were a part of.
And some of the committees, of course, aren't gonna have that much like airport. We just have our CIP, and it's not anything big. It's this is this year, that year. This is what we're looking at. Public spaces was always one of those bigger ones that I wanted to work on the relationship with and have a better working relationship. And I felt having them come into strategic planning sometime to present something like that, what their vision is for the parks and anything that they're looking into, such as park rules, which is part of their purview, cemetery rules, et cetera, et cetera.
So if Public Spaces is prepared to present, I think that would be great to invite them. I think for airport, one thing I'm concerned about is that your CIP is your operational goals, right? Like, that's just a list of things you're gonna spend money on. I don't see a strategy for the airport. I haven't seen anything that would tell me, here's the value the airport provides to the community versus the cost. Here's the future for the airport, where we're going with it, the vision for it.
Yep.
That's more strategic versus your operational goals, which is just, we're gonna build this, we're gonna repair this, we're gonna invest in this. And if we aren't aligned to a strategy, that's where, it seems like we should be aligning that to some strategy.
We've had some discussions on strategy on the airport at the meetings, what it can be expanded, used for, fence pass-through type projects with neighboring properties. We've discussed some of that, but it's nothing that we've set goals on. A lot of those are very high thinking type areas, but they're not anything that comes usually into the operation of the airport. I'm sure we wanted more use, wanted more things going on, more activities going on there. But I think if Parks is ready, some of these are just gonna be, in essence, CIPs. Your wellhead protection, it's what type of strategic goals do they have, other than, protecting the wellheads, and what do they wanna move forward on? Is there any expenses that they have? I think as part of it in this was developing that relationship with some of the committees, as well as understanding what they're seeing coming down the road. Like, I think you've talked about wellhead protection, looking at tank surveys and different things down the road and seeing where we could get funding to do some of those type of things. But I would like to have them in on strategic planning. I don't know if it would be something to invite them to breakfast and have the ones that want to present, which might only just be public spaces. Which other committees have done much on this? DDA?
So DDA, we're supposed to do it in early December. They didn't have a quorum, so they weren't able to go through it. So they're doing it December 12th. That's also our joint DDA Planning Commission meeting per requirements of the MEDC's RRC program. But it's talking about the future, so it lines up for them. The HDC, I wasn't at that last meeting. Though I do know, Dave, you put up a matrix and started laying out the format of a study committee at the last meeting. Yeah, that's, the ones that are fresh off top of my head. The EDC and the BRA isn't going to meet till January anyways, when they start back up in quarterly meetings.
EDC chair, I'm sure, could come present, but that committee's been kind of shelved, so I don't know.
So what do we think, guys? Should we invite anyone who's ready that wants to come present to the strategic planning? And then, staff will have things to report from others if no one's available.
That's my thought. I would think of that.
Mike or Roger, did you have any thoughts? No?
As I've said in the future, I feel like the committees should hear our strategic goals and then and then form their plan out of that. Because you said chicken or the egg. I think we're the chicken. I think we lay the egg. Maybe maybe that's not a good, that's a good metaphor. Yeah.
Or we're not the Allegan.
But I think it would be good, I think having more communication between council and the committees, I think is a good thing. I think communication's always a good thing, and make them feel like they're a part of something and they're being heard, and it allows them to see that they're a part of something bigger, how they connect with everything else, so. I think
So
it'd be good.
timing-wise, do you have a thought?
Well, I am always for not having an extra meeting, so. So, I mean, I think if we brought them into January 15,
Okay.
I think that would probably be good.
Teresa, kind of sounded like you were leaning that way. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Bill, what do you think? Hi there.
I didn't know anything about any of this stuff
Okay.
before, and so I'm in a very bad position. I don't.
Okay. It is hard when you come in when there's been a lot of conversations you're not privy to.
It's mainly to get some good communication with our committees to the, okay, all right, okay, all right.
Staff, is it something that we think we can incorporate into
Definitely,
the
yes.
15th?
Yes.
Okay. Right, if that sounds good with everyone. I don't want to make the decision
So
for
are
them.
we going to put it on the staff to get
Yes.
a hold of the chairs?
Yep.
Okay, okay.
Emails will go out. The public spaces, they're going to be prepared.
Yeah.
I agree with
exactly.
Councilmember Redding. Mike Keela can talk at a moment's notice, and he's well informed. I mean, the EDC plan was just adopted this past summer.
Right?
Was this past summer or the summer before?
Summer
Summer
before.
before, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still, fresh there. DDA, downtown streetscape. That is their focus, which also ties into public spaces, that design, a couple public space members went with me on November 11th to look at, potential lights and benches, and we all agreed the direction the three of us want to go, but there's a lot more than three people that need to be on the same page. So yeah, we'll be able to pull this off.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions about the budget schedule? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve that then, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, council, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have number 12 on our agenda for board appointments, and under 12A.1 is an appointment of Carleigh Ackerman to the DDA with a term set to expire on December 31st, 2024. Carleigh is the owner of Hairworks, right over here, kitty corner across the street, and she had submitted an application. I am making the recommendation to appoint her to that committee. If there are no questions, could I get a motion to appoint her, please?
I move.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Roger. All those in favor for her appointment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 13, which is communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Joel, did you have anything tonight?
Two things. First of all, I am closing City Hall tomorrow. There is a water leak on Hubbard. It not only affects the businesses along Hubbard, but it affects the properties on the south side or east side of Chestnut, including City Hall. So we cannot have a public building open if we do not have running water for health and safety reasons, especially, in the pandemic we have going on right now. So staff will be working from home. We are putting notices up. People will be able to call my desk if they have emergencies and they need to get a hold of someone at City Hall. That rings right to my cell phone. So we will be able to provide services. We operated just fine in 2020 and part of 2021 when we were closed, to the public. It is an inconvenience. We recognize that, but it is, something that the decision had to be made this afternoon, and I made that decision. Second thing, to make council aware. This is, since we made New Year's Eve a holiday, we're going to be closed New Year's Eve on Thursday, and then New Year's Day, or since New Year's Eve falls on a Friday and New Year's Day is on a Saturday, Thursday and Friday, City Hall is closed. if someone drops a check in over that weekend, we will backdate it back to 2021, the year we're in right now. So I just want to make council aware, we're not going to be hard noses or anything like that. So we will backdate, checks that come in over the weekend to the Thursday that we're, since we not should be open, but since, it's not a bank holiday. And I'm going to not steal Dave's thunder, but Dave reached out to me and had a great question. As council, if you pay attention to the news, the bipartisan infrastructure bill was passed earlier this year. We need to get a watchful eye on all this, opportunities that might be coming down the pipeline. Out of the blue, I received an email from U.S. Senator Peter's office to let me know that our airport has received $156,000 over the next 5 years. I don't know if that's 156 divided by 5, and we get that much each year, or if that is 156,000 each year for the next 5 years, or if it's just $156,000 and we have to spend it within 5 years. Wasn't much information except for congratulations. I responded on behalf of the city and city council, thanking them for letting us know that we did receive that money. I then invited, Senator Peters and his representatives to come tour Allegan and see all the other cool stuff we have going on down here. They accepted that, so at least representatives from that office will be here at sometime in January. I will be meeting with Tony McGee from Abbott Marsh as we start laying out all these, visits we're scheduling with people state and federal representatives that we want to bring into Allegan to just show them everything we got going on and, the cool stuff that's going on, but also the needs that we have to, address as a community. I'll keep, council apprised on when those tours are happening, but, they responded positively. They wanted to come and see what we got going on, which is good. Also got an email from Councilmember Hands about a state Senate bill that got introduced that deals with a lot of infrastructure, spending, water, sewer, dams. Again, something we have to keep our eye on. I hope during the strategic planning session, we have time to talk about that stuff and that process. Didn't want to steal your Dave's thunder, but is there more stuff you want to add?
Yeah, my thoughts were definitely more towards streetscape, Iron Bridge, M89, Hubbard realignment. Are we including like Mary Whiteford, Eric Nesbitt in our invites?
Yep. So Eric Nesbitt, his office and myself are scheduling a meeting in January. We're also going to have a couple local companies in on that conference call as well, because private companies also have needs that they looking to be filled and met. We'll also work with Mary Whiteford's office or their heir apparent for the replacement in the upcoming election as well.
Okay.
I believe she terms out this year.
Yeah.
Does she term out? Okay. That's what I was told. That's why I said, and I've been told there's an heir apparent. I don't know what that means, but we'll be talking to those people.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Joel. Michaela, anything from you tonight? Parker?
Well, yes. This coming Friday is New Year's Eve, like Joel mentioned. It's also Downtown Allegan's New Year's Eve event. It's the 4th annual that has happened on the riverfront. The brief hiatus last year, obviously. So we're excited to see that return. We're expecting a big turnout again. You can expect the usual if you've been there in the past. Massive fire pits throughout the riverfront. We've got music, no live band this year, but we'll be streaming music throughout the night. The city will be in control of the ball drop this year. We have a countdown clock ready and prepared to be on the stage. Food trucks, the addition of a silent disco this year. If you don't know what that means, come find out. I'm not going to explain it. And then of course, we'll have a photo booth for free as well, like we've had in years past. That's always been a big hit. So amongst other fun things, the addition of the social district this year will be a cool thing to have be a part of this event. So that's this coming Friday from 8 p.m. to 12:01.
Thanks, Parker, and thanks for all the work getting this together, staff. Bill, anything from you tonight? I surprised you and went this way, huh? Dave, anything else?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Teresa?
I don't have anything, so Happy New Year's, everyone.
Peter?
Nothing tonight.
Roger?
I wanted to just say, great job, congratulations to Parker and all of your folks that got Festive Fridays done again. They're just great events, even in the pouring rain. It was still a good night. And it is just, to see where we've come, like on Christmas morning, we were opening gifts, and it became like the joke, like people would open, and someone would say, and this was bought locally. Like, that was like the thing, and so many of the gifts under our tree were bought in Allegan. And we couldn't have done that 10 years ago, and, well, we could have, but it would have been not as great a Christmas. But it was just so much fun to have quality stuff that people wanted coming out of our city. So that's a testament to all the hard work from so many people in and out of this room, that Allegan is coming alive. It's really cool, and I am so pumped for New Year's Eve. I was so disappointed we didn't have it last year, and so excited for it this year, so can't wait. Hope you are all there.
Awesome, thanks, Roger. Mike, anything from you tonight?
Nothing for me.
Okay. I just have one really quick thing, and that is I just want to extend a thanks again to the city for your involvement and your support for the Allegan Ugly Sweater 5K. We were able to donate $7,300 to the Wings Home this year. That was our highest donation that we've ever had, and our largest registration as well. We had 234 runners cross the starting line this year, and over 260 that registered. So biggest year ever. I'm very proud of that and all the work, and the support from the city was extremely helpful and appreciated. So Doug was very, very on point anytime I sent him 10,000 messages. So the other thing, you had mentioned finances earlier. Finance policy. We still have not seen that, Joel.
Noted.
Thank you. Okay.
One last quick thing, there's a cool
New shop coming in.
new shop coming in shortly, so just everybody keep an eye out for that, because we're gonna have an awesome comic book store in town.
Yet another new and exciting thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:14. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. A couple days in advance.